Morning. Today I want to talk about all the things that we've got in Christ and how that should deliver us from boasting in men. I want to read to you from 1 Corinthians 3, verse 18. Paul says, "Let no one deceive himself. If anyone among you thinks he's wise in this age, let him become a fool that he might become wise. For the wisdom of this world is folly with God, for it's written, He catches the wise in their craftiness, and again the Lord knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are futile. So let no one boast in men. For all things are yours, whether Paul or Apollos or Cephas or the world or life or death or the present or the future, all are yours, and you are Christ's, and Christ is God's." The ways of the world are to boast in men. You just need to look at all the different aspects of the world. Look at sports, for example. Look how people go to a stadium and look how they sing songs about men. Look at how people treat their favourite music stars and pop stars and how they obsess over them, or their favourite movie stars, or their favourite actors and actresses. Just consider the way that men in the world boast in men, the way that men in the world boast in the wisdom of men. We see that especially in kind of new atheism, just this kind of idea that the highest and the wisest thing in the whole universe is the mind of a man. And Paul says, don't be deceived, don't think like that. He says, if anyone among you thinks that he's wise in this age, let him become a fool that he might become wise. He says it's those who realize that they're not wise who are truly wise. It's those who realize that wisdom is not found in themselves, but is found in Christ alone. And so there's this thing in the world where the world lives by such a pattern that it exalts men and the seeming wisdom of man, and that had creeped into the church in Corinth, where they were boasting in the wisdom of Paul and Apollos. The congregations, they would sit there, Paul would speak, and they would sit there thinking, oh, isn't Paul so profound? Isn't Paul so wise? Say it again, Paul. Speak to us. Oh, what a word, Paul. You're amazing. Sometimes we hear things like that in our churches today, and Paul says, you shouldn't really be doing that. You shouldn't be glorying in the wisdom of the communicator, in the way he's been able to deliver a word. Become a fool that you might become wise. Realize that you're not wise. Realize that you're not actually that profound. Realize that you're not actually that amazing. And Paul then gives us the reason that we don't need to boast in men. He says, for all things are yours, whether Paul, Apollos, Cephas, the world, life, death, the present or the future, all are yours. You are Christ's, and Christ is God's. Paul is basically saying this. We've been sent here to serve you. We've been given for you that you might know God. So we are yours. He says the world is yours. God has created the world that you might inhabit it and that you might inherit it in Christ. Just think on that for a moment. You are going to get ownership of the world in Christ. You will inherit the earth, Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, and Paul says it here. He says life is for you. Life is for the church. Life was designed that God might have a people who belong to him, which is the church. Death is yours because it's better for you to die and go and be with Christ. And the process of death, even that matures us for the day that we're before Jesus. The present and the future are yours. God is working in this present age, and he's working in the future to bring about his plans and purposes in the world, which include you. So everything that God has created is geared towards you as the church in Christ, being the people God's called you to be, and God's working through his creation to bring that to pass. And you are Christ's. You belong to Jesus. You belong to the Messiah, the Son of God, the Lord of Lords, and the King of Kings. You belong to him, and he is God's. So in Christ, you are God's. You are his, and he is yours. Paul's essentially saying, when you ponder on that reality and you get that reality, you wouldn't think about boasting in men. You wouldn't need to boast in your favourite sports stars. You wouldn't need to boast in your favourite music stars. And you wouldn't even think about boasting in your Christian leaders and commenting on how amazingly profound they are when they speak. Because what you should be glorying in as you're sitting there listening is not them and their communication style, but it's God and it's everything we have in Christ. And that's what Paul is pushing the church in Corinth towards. So I want to encourage you today. Once again, we've had many topics on this, but don't boast in your Christian leaders. Don't glory in your Christian leaders. Don't be awestruck by the wisdom of men. And don't seek that others would see you as wise either. But let's become fools, and let's understand that in comparison to God, we're all fools. But let's become wise by seeing that the wisdom of God is found in Christ. And let's be awestruck by him and him alone. God bless you. I hope you have a great day today. Hope this is helpful for you. And may Jesus be with you as you walk in him. Amen.